Welcome back. Today is an all-women's affair. The only reason I'm seated here is because I'm co-host of the show. Else, I should have left here for Bukola and maybe brought somebody else to join her, because we have literally dedicated today to talk about issues that concern women. Of course, the theme for the year: rights, justice, action. For all women and girls, according to the United Nations. And that's where we'll start off from as far as this is concerned. Issues around governance and women participation. Joining us on the program from our Abuja studios is Vivian FM Bassi. She is a governance specialist, Actionaid Nigeria. Madam, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
And happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much.
You know, I'm particularly happy to be part of this conversation by privilege because the world is a very interesting place. We can, at the tip of our fingers, count how many women are leading countries. Maybe organizations, we have a lot more. So in the private sector, women are doing a lot more better, maybe at the national level, international level. But when it comes to the issue of national governance in terms of public spaces, governors, president, that is where we really have a lot of problem. And the reasons are not very far-fetched. The gap, in terms of the legal gaps that we've spoken about, in terms of inequality and all the things that patriarchy comes with. So I wonder how you are approaching this year's International Women's Day when the word governance in public spaces come to mind.
Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to take us through memory lane and how International Women's Day came to be. It's interesting because there's a linkage. As far back as 1908, women in America hit the street, New York to be specific, and it was around labor laws. They were demanding for increased pay, reduction in work hours, and the right to vote. Forward to 1911, a German activist proposed International Women's Day. It seemed like if it was a simple request. However, it was powerful. She wanted a day where women are celebrated and people all over the world come together to push for gender equality. Not too long down the years, women in Russia also hit the streets. And interestingly, that protest was on March 8th. They were demanding for food. They were demanding for an end to war. It was World War I. And then in 1975, the United Nations recognizes May 8th as International Women's Day. 51 years after, we are basically demanding the same thing. I think Nigerians all over would know that recently what's in the front burner is the demand for reserved seats for women. It is Nigerians' women's way of ensuring that women get to enter into strategic and the apex decision-making bodies at Senate level, at House of Representatives, and state assemblies. You had already alluded to the fact that our figures are low, extremely low. We are below 5% when it comes to women in parliament, when globally they're almost hitting 26, 27%. And so yes, the reserved seats bill, the demand for the passage of the reserved seats bill is what is on the front burner. That is what Nigerian women are demanding, and that is central to us in this year's International Women's Day.
So let's localize a global context as far as these seats are concerned. Maybe you help us give example. I know places like Rwanda is up on that ladder in terms of examples and all of that. But I was reading through what the United Nations wrote, and they say that if progress, I'm reading what they wrote on their page, if progress continues at its current pace, it will take, see this, 286 years to close legal protection gaps. And none of us will be here. Children, me. So I just have to bring that context so that you can localize it as to accelerating the aspiration of women is a very valid aspiration. As far as representation at least is concerned in the National Assembly, what that will do is, in terms of signaling, it will send a strong message that the country is serious about inclusion by perhaps quota system. Do you see it happening?
Mm-hmm. Right now, our fingers are crossed. We are positive that it would happen. Women all over Nigeria, women's groups, both at local levels, at national levels, even at federal level, state level, local levels, have mobilized. We have advocated, we have lobbied, we have rolled out campaigns on social media, on mass media, on traditional media, on local media. We have carried out marches, we have protested, we have been on media, we've written press statements, we've held press conferences, we've written think pieces. We've done the much we know we can when it comes to standard operating procedures of pushing for passages of bills such as this, especially one as critical as this. We've lobbied amongst the legislators. We have some backing. We have some more people that we need to still bring to our side. That is still happening. But we are positive. It has been a long year, started last year, of pushing for this demand. And we're positive. Our fingers are crossed, our hearts are in our mouths, and we are hoping, yes, this will happen. Because for us, this is writing our names in the sands of time and letting our children and those generations that may experience the attainment in the 200 and something years ahead, that we, during this time, made this happen.
Let's be, frank in the discussion as we move forward now. We know that the women groups have done all that they can in approaching this discussion. As a matter of fact, if my history of events serves me right, the wife of the former president had a time at the National Assembly when she visited and took her seat in the continued advocacy for the special seats for women bill. Now, but the truth of the matter is we have about 60% of the National Assembly, dominated by male legislators who are from the north. So what do you see? And here's an area where there are cultural and religious beliefs that serve as impediments to the path of women representation. What else do you see as a strategy that the women groups and indeed female legislators can deploy to achieving this objective?
So, well, sometimes you have to give a little. So, for instance, while we are debating and advocating, we could say, okay, give us for now, because there's a sunset timer to the bill. It's temporary. It's for 16 years, a 4-election cycle. Within these years, maybe we say something like, maybe the women don't have voting rights. But let's see. However, they get to contribute to laws, because one of the major reasons why we are seeking women representation is because women will contribute towards making laws based on lived experiences. They know where it pinches, they know what we need, and so when laws are being made around economy, entrepreneurship, business, security, health, they come from the perspective of being a woman and a lived experience. So these laws are encompassing, these laws address our current realities and our lived realities. So we want the women to get in there for the time being and contribute towards making these laws, make their suggestions. So again, there's a give and take. This is politics. Do we suggest, okay, bring the women in, but for this sunset period, this timing, probably we say, maybe they don't have voting rights. Is it something that sits well with you during this period while we monitor and see the effectiveness of having more women in our parliaments? So something like, it's a give or take. We need to come to the table and negotiate.
Is that not too much to give, considering the fact that the search for women representation itself is such that women can have a seat at the table in order to contribute to the decision-making process that can make life better for the women at the lower rung of the ladder? And in other areas of negotiation, are the women groups willing to say, okay, we're campaigning for 3, well, we can reduce it to 2 or 1? Isn't that a better negotiating strategy rather than, sacrificing the voting rights of the women should they get the seats at the National Assembly?
So that was an example. So, but women are willing we just want to get in there. Get us in there for the time being, right? So we are willing to negotiate, but how far there will get to a time where there's as much as we can let go of, right? So for example, about the voting rights, that's just one example. I'm not speaking for the entire body of women in Nigeria. Of course, there will be pushbacks. Even with that voting rights, there will still be resistance. But do we want to reduce the numbers? The numbers are not that much either. We're just asking for 37 at the Senate, additional seats, 37 at the House of Representatives. That's 1 per state and the FCT. At the state level, we're asking for 3 per senatorial district. So the numbers are not that much, the additional seats. So if we say we are going to cut back on the numbers, who's losing out? Which state is losing out? Which senatorial district at state level is losing out? The count was based on representative across board.
Interesting. Now, there's a question I did ask other ladies I've interviewed when it comes to this seat matter. What will work? Because women are asking for reserve seats. By reserve seat, if I understand, each state has 3 senatorial districts apart from the FCT. Women are perhaps asking for a creation of a new district, a senatorial district, and that should be exclusive to women. So given what we're dealing with in terms of the size of government, complaints about paucity of funds, and the things you're very familiar with, would it be easier to say, out of the 3 seats that are already existing, why don't you allow women to take 1 in a rotational basis, or whatever formula works for each state? Just let's know that whenever there's an election cycle, each state must come to this National Assembly, at least for the Senate, which is the number is smaller, 1 woman. Which is easier, extra seats or, surrendering 1 seat of the 3 to women?
We still stand on the extras, additional seats, because the scale is tipped and skewed so badly. We are finding a way to redistribute power. So if we say we are letting go of the additional seats and looking at 1 seat out of 3, the scale is still tipped.
No, but I don't know what you mean by the scale is still tipped. If you're saying it's still the same 37, so 37 could mean additional seats, as you choose to call it. So now making each state giving us 4 senators. I'm saying you can still get 3 senators or 1 senator or 1 female senator, which will still make up 37 if the men surrender 1 seat of the 3 that is already existing in the Constitution. Because what you're asking for is literal Constitution amendment in this sense. But the other one can be worked out by some level of understanding.
Well, constitutional amendment, like you said, is something that can happen. It has been happening across other sections of the Constitution. Why not this?
Okay.
Why not this? It's an amendment. It's not that hard. We have been amending constitutions across board since 1999.
Madam,
so it doesn't take much for that to be done.
Madam, the reason I asked that question and I was trying to explain myself is acceleration is the key word here. How do we accelerate? It's not going to happen within the next election cycle because, of course, the amendment is still on. We're fighting over even the Electoral Act. Primaries are coming in barely 1 month. So we're talking about perhaps
definitive.
Well, it's a valid question to ask.
Because, like I said, we're still positive. Our fingers are crossed. We are waiting for the bill to be passed. We are pushing it. We are actually right now, we're still putting pressure to ensure that that happens before. We know now the schedule has come. The electoral schedule has come. The timetable is out. And so now more than ever, it's important that that is done. And why women are still pushing and holding on is because we have heard and we have positive discussions with those in power. There is a possibility, and that's why we're not backing down.
And that leads me to my next question, and it's related to asking about what alternative strategies there are. I'm wondering if the women groups, are approaching the spouses of legislators. For instance, what is the thinking? Do the women groups have an idea of whether or not the legislators, all 360 in the House of Reps and 109 at the Senate, are favorably disposed towards the women's seats, special seats for women bill? Do you know, can you tell us whether or not all of them will vote for that bill? For instance, what is the strategy to getting the wife of the president, to supporting this bill more, vocally, and in fact getting the president himself, to speak favorably about this bill? For instance, the president, we know clearly that he is in support of the state police bill and has in fact pointed the National Assembly in that direction. So what is the alternative strategy to cover these areas to get the legislators to support the bill?
Do be assured that women have covered all the strategies you just listed out. We know our allies. We know those that could serve as disruptors. We have an idea of who's on our side, who is in the middle, and who isn't even considering it at all. And we're working on changing and bringing those persons to our side. Talking about spouses, that route has been gone through, and we are sustaining the pressure, we're sustaining the momentum. These are women with credibility, women with experience, vast experiences when it comes to advocacy and lobbying and campaigning from all different sizes. It was strategic planning. It was like going to war and having a full team of the armies, and each person assigned to different units carrying out their different tasks. So a lot has been done behind closed doors, a lot. And we are sustaining the momentum and pushing it forward.
All right. Let me get this one in before we wrap this up. And it's just as important as women coming together to demand a special seats bill. Let's talk about, this women supporting women themselves. According to INEC register, in the last updated register after registration in 2023, I believe, 55.14% of the total figure was made up of women. But we know where the preponderance of that votes go to in terms of voting. We can see those who emerge victorious. Sometimes we could say that some of them are contentious because they're finally determined, at the court level. But going by this data and the majority of the outcomes of election results, are women serious about taking advantage of this number that make them a voting bloc in the elections?
Oh yes, women are serious about taking it. It's unfortunate that patriarchy, socialization, nature and nurture has affected women, and a group of women, a couple of women still believe that our fellow women are supposed not to be heard or seen. They feel, our place is still in the kitchen and in other places where you don't in any way show your worth. However, one of the reasons, again, for the demand of the reserved seats is so women can show their ability to govern and their ability to lead. That way there are examples and role models to other women. And please remember that just because we are demanding for reserved seats doesn't mean that the other seats women still can't contest. They can't contest. Women are upping their game to motivate and inspire women to support women, to vote for women, using role models that have achieved greatness within Nigeria and across the world as examples.
Well, thank you so much. It's an All Women's Affair, Women Affair today on the program, and so this is the first leg of it. We must thank you, and I wish you the very best in the aspiration for the reserve seat. Vivian F. is a governance specialist at the Actionaid Nigeria. Thank you, madam.
You're welcome.
All right, well, we'll take a break. When we come back after this break, we'll be talking about the broader conversation around International Women's Day with somebody from the United Nations. Join us again.